Irene Garza's Murder Intro. In the quiet town of McAllen, Texas, a tragic event unfolded that would grip the nation for decades. A beloved schoolteacher and beauty queen, Irene Garza, went missing after confessing her sins at a local church. What followed was a harrowing tale of deceit, betrayal, and a quest for justice that spanned generations. Join us as we delve into the gripping story of Irene Garza's murder and the shocking twists that finally led to closure. Body Irene Garza was an American schoolteacher and beauty queen who was born November 15, 1934, and died April 1960. Her death was looked into for many years, as she was last seen living on April 16, 1960, when she went to a church in McAllen, Texas, to confess her sins. It was reported that she was missing the next morning. The biggest volunteer search in the Rio Grande Valley up to that point found Garza's body in a canal on April 21st. An autopsy had shown that she had been sexually attacked before she was killed. It was discovered that she was dead as a result of suffocation. The only person caught guilty of Garza's murder was Father John Bernard Fite, the Catholic priest who heard her last confession.
It wasn't until 2002 that Joseph O'Brien told the police that Fite had admitted to killing Garza soon after the crime. He was no longer a priest because he got married and had a family in the 1970s.
The district attorney in Hidalgo County thought for a long time that there wasn't enough proof against Fite to get him convicted. In 2004, he took the case to a grand jury, but Fite, Tacony, and O'Brien were not called in, and Fite was not charged. Once again, in 2015, when a new district attorney took over in Hidalgo County, the death of Garza was looked into. Fite, who was now 83 years old, was caught in Arizona in February 2016 for Garza's death. He was later sent back to Texas and was charged with murder in late November 2017. Fite was found guilty of murder on December 7, 2017, and was given a life sentence the next day. He passed away in February 2020, though that's only a summary of what had happened. Want to hear the full gist? You've got to keep watching then.
Background story: Irene Garza was born in 1934.
Her parents, Nicholas and Josefina, ran a dry cleaning business in McAllen, Texas, which is in the Rio Grande Valley, a border area in South Texas. After Garza's parents' business did well, the family was able to move from the poor south side of McAllen to a better-off north side neighborhood.
She graduated from McAllen High School, where she was the first Latina to carry a drum majorette or dance.
Garza was a homecoming queen at Pan American College and was named Miss All South Texas Sweetheart in 1958. Before she died, Garza was a second-grade teacher at a public school on the south side of McAllen, where she taught poor kids. Before she disappeared, she wrote a letter to a friend in which she said she was very shy but thrilled with her work. It was just recent to that time that Garza became secretary of her parent-teacher association. She said that this made her feel better about herself. She was a true Catholic and a member of the Legion of Mary. In her letter, Garza said that going to Mass and communion every day gave her comfort. Garza told her parents that she was going to confession at Sacred Heart Church in McAllen on April 16, 1960. She lived with them. Many people in the congregation noticed her because she was so beautiful, and many of them remembered seeing Garza at church that night. Her parents first thought she had stayed at the church for the Easter Vigil Mass when they didn't hear from her that night. But they called the McAllen Police Department to report their daughter missing when Garza didn't come home by 3 a.m. On April 18th, people walking down a road in McAllen found Garza's purse, left shoe, and lace veil.
The evidence stretched for several hundred yards.
A search was launched by the government and citizens, which was the biggest in the history of the Rio Grande Valley at the time. A woman who said she was Garza called her and said she had been kidnapped and taken to a hotel in nearby Hidalgo. The call turned out to be fake, though. Someone else told a waitress in Edinburgh that he had killed Garza, but it turned out to be a joke that person made after drinking a lot. On April 21st, Garza's body was found in a ditch some miles away from the other evidence. The medical officials could tell that Garza had died of suffocation from the autopsy. She had been hit and raped while she was unconscious. There were signs of hurt on the right side of her face and under both eyes. Any physical clues that could have helped find the attacker like hair, blood, or sperm, seemed to have been washed away while the body was in the canal. Police in several cities in Texas questioned about 500 people, including known sex offenders and Garza's family, co-workers, and ex-boyfriends.
They also did almost 50 polygraph tests and offered a $2,500 reward for information about her death, which was more money than had ever been offered in a murder case in the Rio Grande Valley.
Later, some South Texas businessmen posted $10,000 as a reward. John Bernard Fitsoon, after Garza went missing, Father John Feet, the priest who heard her last confession, was suspected. Feet had been working at the McAllen Church since finishing seminary training in San Antonio. Church members said that Feit's confession line moved slowly the night of Garza's disappearance, and that he was out of the sanctuary several times. Feit's picture slide viewer was found when the canal was drained a few days after Garza's body was found. Fellow priests had seen scratch marks on Feit's hands after Easter Vigil Mass and said it wasn't normal for him to have taken Garza to the church rectory to hear her confession, which is what he was said to have done that night. At first, McAllen police said Feit passed polygraph tests, but later they said the tests were not conclusive. Feity first said he didn't hear Garza's confession in the church, but later he said he did. He said that he wasn't in the chapel because he had broken his glasses that night. He said that he often played with his glasses nervously while listening to confession. Feit said he had driven back to the pastoral house of his church, which was only a short drive away, to get another pair of glasses.
When he got there, he didn't have the keys, so he had to climb up on the second floor to get in.
He said that he got the cuts on his hands while climbing up the outside of the brick building. A woman named Maria America Guerra was sexually assaulted while kneeling at the communion rail at another Catholic church in the McAllen area 3 weeks before Garza's death. There was a rumor that Feit was responsible, but local church leaders told people not to think that a priest might have been involved in a violent crime.
Feit said that he had been to that church to see a priest on the day of Guerra's attack, but he denied hitting her.
After that, he was charged with rape, but the judges couldn't decide what to do.
Feet pleaded no contest to a misdemeanor charge of aggravated assault in 1962 instead of going to a second hearing.
He also paid a $500 fine. Feit later said that he didn't know that a no-contest plea would be considered a conviction in the case. Stalling in the case, Feit was sent to Assumption Abbey, a Trappist abbey in Missouri, after the court case in the Guerra case was over. An abbot at Assumption Abbey told Dale Tacchini, a monk, that Feit had killed someone. The abbot asked Tacchini to talk to Feit for a few months to see if Feit was ready to become a monk. It was Tacchini's job to judge Feit at the time, even though Feit admitted to hurting one girl and killing another. Feit's statement was not reported to the police for a long time.
Feet didn't like living as a monk at Assumption Abbey.
He was sent to a Servants of the Paraclete-run treatment center for troubled priests in Jemez Springs, New Mexico. After that, he joined the order as a staff member and worked his way up to a supervisory position at the center. Father James Porter came to the center after it was known that he had started sexually abusing children in the 1960s. Feit gave him permission to be placed in another church. Porter was later stripped of his robes and sent to jail for abusing up to 100 children. In the 1970s, Feit quit being a priest. He got married, moved to the Phoenix area, and had 3 kids there. It took him 17 years to work as a volunteer food bank worker for the Society of St. Vincent de Paul. After Feit told him the truth in 2002, Tacchini decided he could no longer hide it. As Feit had trained in San Antonio, Tacchini thought that the murder must have happened there and called the police there. That year, the investigation into Garza's death began again. Officer Rudy Jaramillo of the Texas Rangers called Father Joseph O'Brien, a priest who had worked with Feit when Garza was killed. In 2000, O'Brien told a TV show that he didn't know anything about the murder, but he told Jaramillo that Feit had confessed soon after the crime. Later, in 2002, the polygraph tester who had tested Feit in 1960 said that he didn't agree with the results that were reported. The first report said that Feit passed the polygraph, but later it was changed to say that the results were not conclusive. The tester had always thought that Feit had failed the test. Although Rene Guerra was the district attorney of Hidalgo County from the 1980s, he didn't bring the Garza case before a grand jury until 2004. Tackney, O'Brien, and Feet were not served with subpoenas in the case, and the grand jury did not decide to charge Feet. O'Brien then passed away in 2005.
Guerra didn't want to look into the case again because he thought the initial police investigation had been bad. O'Brien was confused when he was questioned, and there was no physical proof. He said that Jaramillo had given Tackney the wrong information about where the murder happened after the monk said it happened in San Antonio. Guerra made Garza's family angry by saying, "Why would anyone be haunted by her death? She died. Her killer got away. Interest paid again." The Garza case came up during the 2014 campaign of District Court Judge Ricardo Rodriguez to replace Guerra as district attorney. Rodriguez said he wanted justice for the Garza family and offered to look at the case again if he were elected. While Rodriguez was running for district attorney, Guerra tried to make him a special prosecutor in the Garza case. Rodriguez said no, saying that he wanted to look at the information again when he took office in January 2015.
In April, he said that the Garza case would be looked at again.
Feet was arrested in Scottsdale, Arizona in February 2016. He was 83 years old when he was caught, and he used a walker when he went to court. Feet was sent back to Texas in March 2016 and put in the Hidalgo County Sheriff Adult Detention Facility. He pleaded not guilty, and a $750,000 bond was asked for by the prosecution, while a $100,000 bond was asked for by the defense team, who also said that Fight had stage 3 kidney and bladder cancer. A $1 million bond was set by Judge Luis Singletary. A status hearing for the case took place in June and November 2016, and as of November, the discovery process was still ongoing. In February 2017, a judge set a trial date for late April, and Fight stayed in the Hidalgo County Jail under medical supervision. In April 2017, Fight's defense team asked for a change of location because they didn't think their client would get a fair trial in Hidalgo County. They turned in a 700-page document with proof that reporters said Fight was a murderer, and that the only reason he hadn't been charged for years was because the Roman Catholic Church had defended him. In March, Tackney gave evidence against Fight in a closed deposition. Under Texas law, this was okay, because the witness was old and knew everything about the case. There was a request to change the venue on May 24th. Judge Singletary heard arguments from both the prosecution and the defense. On June 7th, he denied the request because the defendant had not shown that there was prejudice against him in the Hidalgo community. Fate went to court on July 19th for a pre-hearing. The trial was supposed to start on September 11th, but on September 10th, the court decided to move it back. Fate went to court for the first time without a prison uniform on September 11th, expecting to go to trial that week. The first round of jury selection was completed in mid-September, but the trial was pushed back to mid-October. On October 30th, Fight's defense team asked for more time, so jury selection was moved to November 14th, and the trial date was pushed back to November 28th. Fate was found guilty of killing Garza on December 7th. During the punishment part of the trial, Fight's defense lawyer asked that Fight be given probation because he hadn't been convicted of a felony crime since Garza's death. A 57-year sentence was asked for by the state to represent the time that had passed since Garza's death. However, on December 8, 2017, the jury gave the man a life sentence in prison. Fate was locked up at the W. Estelle unit, which is 10 miles north of the middle of Huntsville, Texas. It was normal for him to die on February 12, 2020. As we conclude this journey into the tragic case of Irene Garza, we invite you to share your thoughts and opinions in the comments below. Do you believe justice was served in the end? What lessons can we learn from this heartbreaking story? Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more gripping true crime stories. Until next time, stay safe and stay curious.